All right, welcome to The Explainer. We're breaking down all the biggest AI news from week 46 of 2025, and there is a lot to cover. This week, that question was really front and center. We saw some huge clues that AI is starting to not just understand our world, but predict it and even act in it. So, yeah, let's dive right in. Okay, so first up, AI is tackling one of the most complicated, chaotic physical systems out there. I'm talking about the weather. Get this, Google DeepMind's new weather lab model is already doing a better job predicting hurricane tracks and intensity this season than the traditional models we've relied on for decades. And we're not talking about a small bump here. Because it learns straight from the data, it's way faster and can actually correct its own mistakes on the fly. This is a huge, huge leap for forecasting accuracy. But, for an AI to learn about the world continuously, it has to overcome this massive hurdle. It's a problem called catastrophic forgetting, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Imagine you learn how to play the piano, but in the process, you completely forget how to speak. That's the kind of thing these systems face, and that's the challenge Google's new Hope model is designed to fix. So the way the Hope model works is actually pretty clever. Instead of just overwriting old knowledge with new stuff, it builds on top of it. Think of it like adding new floors to a building instead of tearing the whole thing down to start over. And this self-modifying approach, it's already showing better accuracy than a lot of today's big language models. It's a really critical step towards creating AI that can adapt and grow, a key milestone on that long road to AGI. So with these capabilities growing so fast, it's no surprise that the industry's big players are starting to think about what's next. And they're looking at both the far-out long-term consequences and the very real short-term challenges we're facing right now. Speaking of which, OpenAI just dropped its big recommendations for how to prepare for a world with super intelligent AI. And check out this timeline. They're predicting that AI could be making major scientific breakthroughs as soon as 2028. That's why they're calling for global coordination right now, pushing all the top labs to agree on safety standards and to start working with governments to get ahead of the risks. But, okay, let's bring it back down to earth for a second. A new survey from McKinsey just gave us a major reality check. Look at these numbers. While pretty much every company, 88%, is playing around with AI, only a tiny fraction, just 6%, are actually seeing a real impact on their profits. That's a huge gap between the hype and the reality of getting this stuff to work in the real world. And that gap has a lot of people asking, okay, so what's the next big thing we need to be looking out for? Well, AI pioneer Dr. Fei Fei Li has a pretty strong opinion on that. She argues that it's not just about making language models bigger and better. The real next step is teaching AI to understand the physical, 3D world around us, to actually move beyond language and into perception and eventually action. And that idea of what's next brings us right to the intense competition heating up across the entire industry. It is a super high-stakes race, and everyone's playing it a little differently. Okay, and this slide shows a really fascinating split in strategy between two of the giants. You've got OpenAI on one side and Anthropic on the other. Reports are projecting that by 2028, Anthropic plans to spend almost 4 times less on compute than OpenAI. It really shows two totally different ways of thinking. Anthropic is betting on efficiency, a lean, enterprise-focused approach to get profitable fast. OpenAI, they're going for massive, all-out growth, launching tons of product, even if it means they won't be profitable for a very, very long time. And speaking of OpenAI, their new model, GPT-5, just hit a really cool milestone. It became the first AI ever to solve a full 9x9 Sudoku puzzle. Now, that might sound like a simple game, but for an AI, it's a huge test of logical reasoning, and it basically doubled the performance of older models. It's a big sign that these systems are getting way better at structured, step-by-step thinking. Of course, this race isn't just about models, it's about talent. And this is a big one. We're hearing reports that Yann LeCun, we're talking a Turing Award winner, a true pioneer who leads AI at Meta, is planning to leave. And what's he going to do? He's apparently starting his own company focused on world models, which is a direct challenge to the big language models that everyone else is focused on right now. And money, oh man, the money flowing into this space is just staggering. Check this out. SoftBank just sold its entire stake in NVIDIA. That's a $5.8 billion position in the company that makes the chips for all this stuff, and they're putting it all on OpenAI. They've declared they are all in, basically making a massive bet that OpenAI is going to become the most valuable company in the world, period. And this frenzy isn't just for the big guys either. An AI coding startup called Cursor just got a new valuation of, wait for it, $29.3 billion. It just goes to show you that even with these giant foundation models, there's still a ton of value and a ton of money in building the apps that sit on top of them. Okay, so all of this progress, all of this money, it's leading to some really incredible new products. But as you can probably guess, it's also creating a whole new set of really complicated problems. Problems we're just now starting to wrap our heads around. Take this, for example. 11 Labs just launched a marketplace where you can license AI-generated celebrity voices. So a brand can literally pay to use the voice of Michael Caine or even historical figures like Maya Angelou or Babe Ruth. I mean, wow. This immediately raises some huge and pretty urgent questions about who owns your voice, your likeness, your digital self. And hey, remember what Dr. Fei Fei Li was talking about understanding the 3D world? Well, her company, World Labs, just launched a tool called Marble that does exactly that. You can feed it a simple prompt, text, an image, whatever, and it generates an entire persistent 3D world. It's happening. We are officially modeling the physical world with AI. OpenAI also pushed out a kind of interesting surprise update, GPT 5.1. The big focus here is on personality. You can actually pick presets now, like nerdy or cynical, to change the tone. But the whole thing felt a little rushed, and they didn't release any performance benchmarks, which suggests they might be shifting to a new strategy of just pushing out smaller, faster updates to keep up with the competition. Meanwhile, OpenAI is also fighting a major battle in court with the New York Times. A judge ordered them to hand over 20 million user chat logs as part of a copyright lawsuit. OpenAI is digging in its heels, saying that's a massive invasion of user privacy. This is a big one, and it's really setting the stage for a huge debate over how confidential our conversations with AI really are. And this next one is, well, it's pretty sobering. Anthropic announced that they stopped what they're calling the first major cyber attack orchestrated by an AI. Get this. The attackers actually manipulated Anthropic's own model, Claude, and got it to carry out almost 90% of the attack all by itself with very little human help. That's a huge wake-up call. And that story leads us directly to our final, and honestly maybe the most important trend we saw this week, and that's the incredibly fast evolution of AI agents. We're talking about systems that don't just give you answers, they actually take action for you. And this chart shows you the progress perfectly. Google DeepMind's new agent, Sima 2, has more than doubled the performance of the last version. This thing can teach itself to play brand new video games it's never seen before. It's showing it can understand instructions and finish complex tasks at a nearly human level. The progress is just incredible. So here's the bottom line. We are moving really, really fast from an era of AI that just gives you information to an era of AI that takes action. This technology is literally leaving the screen and starting to operate in our physical world. And that brings us to the big final question we have to ask ourselves. Are we actually ready for what comes next?